AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister for telling her fiancé the truth about their wedding plans. So, this is a long one, but bear with me because it's a wild family drama story, and I'm honestly still trying to process everything that went down. I, 29F, come from a fairly close-knit family. My parents have always been very traditional, and my older sister, Sarah, 32F, is kind of the golden child in their eyes. Sarah has always been the planner and the perfectionist, and honestly, a bit controlling when it comes to family stuff. I'm more laid back and tend to just go with the flow, which has caused tension between us for years. Sarah got engaged about 6 months ago to this guy named Mark, 33M. Mark seemed nice enough at first. He was charming, funny, and he genuinely seemed to love Sarah. I liked him well enough, but I always had a weird feeling about how much Sarah was pushing him around and dictating everything about the wedding. I figured that was normal for couples, though, especially since Sarah's always been the type to want control. About 3 months ago, Sarah announced the wedding was going to be a huge, extravagant event. She was talking about having it at a luxury resort, flying everyone out, hiring a famous band, and basically making it this massive, expensive affair. This came as a shock to me and most of the family because Sarah and Mark had never mentioned anything like that to us before, and honestly, it felt really over the top. I wasn't the only one surprised. Our parents were kind of shell-shocked because they had always assumed it would be a simple, traditional wedding in our hometown. When they expressed concern about the cost and the stress it would cause, Sarah brushed them off and said she wanted the perfect day and nothing less. Then came the invites. Sarah sent them out a month ago, and what really set off the drama was that the guest list was huge, like 300 people huge. This included a ton of distant relatives, coworkers she barely knew, and friends from her college years that our family hadn't seen in ages. We live in a small town, and most of us have pretty tight budgets, so the thought of flying out for a week-long wedding extravaganza was overwhelming. Here's the kicker. Sarah made it very clear that this was a mandatory event for immediate family and close friends. If you couldn't make it, you were basically disinvited from all future family events and gatherings. She's always been stubborn, but this felt extreme. My boyfriend, Jason, and I live modestly and have been saving for a house. We simply couldn't justify spending thousands on a trip and an event that felt more like a show than a celebration. I told Sarah we probably wouldn't be able to make it, and she got furious, saying we weren't supportive and that we didn't care about her happiness. Now, here's where things really started to unravel. A couple of weeks ago, I was visiting my parents and happened to overhear a conversation between Sarah and Mark when they thought no one was around. Sarah was complaining about how Mark didn't want to spend that much money on the wedding and that he was pushing back on some of the extravagant plans. I was shocked because Mark had always seemed on board with everything when I met him. I knew Sarah could be manipulative, so I decided to talk to Mark privately to get his side. When I approached him, he admitted he was stressed out about the cost and was feeling pressured to agree to things he didn't want just to keep Sarah happy. I felt bad for him because it sounded like Sarah was basically strong-arming him into doing everything her way without considering his feelings. So, I told Mark that if he didn't want to go through with the extravagant plans, he should be honest with Sarah and set boundaries. I also told him that family was really upset about how forceful Sarah was being and that the wedding felt like it was spiraling out of control. Mark thanked me for being honest and confided that he was worried about causing a fight with Sarah, but appreciated having someone to talk to who wasn't just on her side. Here's where I think things went south. A few days later, Sarah confronted me. She was furious and accused me of betraying her by talking to Mark behind her back and tried to sabotage her wedding. She claimed I was trying to turn him against her and that I was being selfish by refusing to support her vision. I told her I wasn't trying to sabotage anything. I just wanted to be honest and help Mark feel comfortable too. I also explained that I couldn't just pretend everything was fine when the wedding plans were stressing out everyone in the family and making it impossible for many of us to attend. Sarah went on a huge rant about how I was ungrateful and how I was ruining the family's reputation. She demanded an apology for meddling and told me I was no longer welcome at the wedding unless I apologized. I refused to apologize because I didn't feel I had done anything wrong. I was honest, I tried to support both of them, and I stood up for my own boundaries about the event. The fallout has been intense. Sarah has cut me off from the family group chats and told my parents I'm being difficult. My parents are caught in the middle and upset, but they haven't really taken sides. Mark reached out to me privately again and thanked me for being the only one who listened to him. He said he's trying to find a way to talk to Sarah without things blowing up. I'm wondering if I really am the asshole here for telling Mark the truth and refusing to apologize to Sarah. I know family drama is complicated, but I don't want to lose my family over a wedding that feels toxic. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after telling her fiancé the truth about their wedding plans. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from important decisions and then blamed me for the fallout. This has been a tough situation, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around whether I'm in the wrong here or not. I'm 32F, and my sister, 28F, is getting married soon. For context, our relationship has always been a bit strained, but nothing out of the ordinary for siblings. A mix of love, rivalry, and occasional misunderstandings. I never imagined something like this would escalate to the point where I might skip her wedding entirely. So, a few months ago, my sister got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. They've been together for about 4 years. When she announced the engagement, I was genuinely happy for her and offered to help in any way I could. From the start, I wanted to be involved in the wedding planning because, well, I'm her sister and I thought it was a natural expectation. I've always been someone who's organized and detail-oriented, and I thought I could help make the process smoother. However, from the beginning, my sister seemed to want to keep everything under wraps. She said she wanted a small, intimate wedding with just close friends and family. That sounded fine, but when I tried to get involved or offer suggestions, she'd shut me down or tell me she already had things figured out. I respected her wishes, but still tried to stay in the loop because it's important to me. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, I was chatting with my mom about the wedding, trying to get some updates. That's when I found out that my sister had excluded me from the bridal party entirely. Not just that, but she's decided to make her fiancé's cousins and friends her bridesmaids instead. I was shocked and hurt. I never even got a heads up or an explanation. I'm her sister, and to me, being part of the bridal party is almost a given. I confronted my sister about it, hoping it was some kind of misunderstanding. She told me she wanted the wedding to be about her and Mark, not about family politics. She said she felt like I'd be too controlling or overbearing if I were involved. I was stunned because I never wanted to control anything. I just wanted to help and be part of her big day. She also mentioned she was worried about me stirring up drama with some family members, which I don't think is fair at all. Things escalated when she sent out invitations. I noticed I wasn't invited to the rehearsal dinner or any pre-wedding events. When I asked her about this, she said she wanted to keep those events very small and didn't want me there because of past arguments. This hurt even more because I've always made an effort to keep things civil with the family. Then came the breaking point. A couple of days ago, our mother called me in tears. Apparently, my sister had an argument with my dad over the wedding guest list. She had told my dad he couldn't invite some extended family members he wanted to, which upset him. When my dad tried to talk to my sister about it, she told him I was making everything complicated and that I was trying to undermine her decisions, none of which I did or even knew about until afterward. At this point, I told my sister I wasn't going to attend the wedding if she was going to exclude me and blame me for family drama that I'm not causing. She responded with a long message accusing me of being selfish and not supporting her happiness. She said that if I loved her, I would respect her choices and be there for her, no matter what. But I honestly feel like she's shutting me out and making me the scapegoat for issues she's created. My friends and some family members say I should just put aside my feelings and be there for my sister. Others say I'm justified for standing up for myself. I'm torn. I don't want to ruin what should be a happy occasion, but I also don't want to be treated like an outsider in my own family. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from important decisions and then blamed me for the fallout. AITA for refusing to invite my sister's husband to my wedding after what he did at my engagement party. I, 28F, am currently planning my wedding, and there's a lot going on with family drama that I didn't expect. I want to share this and see if I'm in the wrong here. A bit of background. I have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, and she's married to Matt, 29M. They've been together for about 5 years, married for 2. My relationship with Emily is pretty close. We've always supported each other through thick and thin. Matt and I, on the other hand, have never really clicked. He's always been kind of distant, a little condescending sometimes, and not particularly warm or involved in family events. A few months ago, I got engaged to my fiancé, David, 30M. We're very excited and have been planning a casual engagement party at my parents' house, inviting close family and friends. I was thrilled to share this moment with Emily and Matt. I wanted everyone to feel included, especially since weddings are big family milestones. The engagement party was going well, with everyone chatting and enjoying themselves. Then, Matt started drinking more heavily than usual. At first, no big deal, but then he began making snide remarks about my fiancé's job and income in front of guests. David works in a modest profession, but is very passionate and hardworking. Matt, on the other hand, has a high-paying tech job and seemed to enjoy putting David down to show off. This was awkward and embarrassing for me. When I confronted Matt quietly, he brushed it off, saying he was just joking and that David needed to toughen up. I was upset, but tried to let it slide for the night. Later, when I was mingling with some friends, I overheard Matt making more disparaging comments about David and me. He implied that I was settling and that David wasn't good enough for me. I felt humiliated and furious. It felt like Matt was deliberately trying to sabotage my engagement celebration. After the party, I talked to Emily about what happened. She was initially defensive, saying Matt was just joking and that I was overreacting. But after I showed her some texts where Matt admitted to feeling threatened by David and making a few pointed remarks, she apologized and said she'd speak to him. Emily told me Matt promised to apologize to David and that he'd behave better moving forward. I appreciated her trying to fix things, but I still felt uneasy. Now, here's the issue. I'm planning the wedding, which is about 6 months away. I want it to be a happy, peaceful day with everyone feeling comfortable. Because of what Matt did, I told Emily that I'm not inviting him to the wedding. I'm inviting Emily because she's my sister and I love her, but Matt's behavior has crossed a line for me. Emily flipped. She said that excluding Matt from the wedding would tear the family apart, that weddings are about unity and forgiveness, and that I was being petty and vindictive. She said Matt apologized and deserves a second chance. She also accused me of being selfish and ruining the day for her. I don't think excluding Matt is petty. His behavior was insulting and humiliating, and I don't want to reward that by inviting him to the biggest day of my life. I want to protect my fiancé and myself from more drama and disrespect. Emily says I'm overreacting and that weddings aren't just about me. They're about family, and I'm damaging family bonds. She's even suggested that if I go through with excluding Matt, she might not attend at all. I feel torn. I love my sister and want her there, but I also want to set boundaries to protect myself and David. I'm wondering if I'm the asshole for refusing to invite Matt after what he did, or if I should swallow my pride for the sake of family peace. So AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he trashed my kitchen during a party. I, 29F, have always been close to my sister, 32F. We grew up in a small town, and even though we now live in different cities, we keep in touch regularly. I recently bought a condo in a nice neighborhood, which is my first big adult purchase. I'm proud of it and have worked hard to save up for it. Because I'm proud and want to enjoy my space, I'm very particular about who I let into my home and under what circumstances. My sister, on the other hand, has always been a bit more wild. She's outgoing, loves parties, and has a group of friends who are often loud and sometimes disrespectful of other people's boundaries. I'm more introverted and prefer small gatherings or quiet dinners. This difference has never been a problem because we usually meet outside or at her place. The problem started about a month ago. My sister's boyfriend, Mark, 35M, had recently broken up with his ex, and she said he needed a place to stay for a couple of weeks while he got back on his feet. My sister asked if he could crash at my condo temporarily. I was hesitant, but my sister assured me Mark was respectful and wouldn't cause any trouble. Plus, she said it would only be for a short time. I agreed, reluctantly, mostly because I didn't want to upset my sister and wanted to be supportive. Mark moved in, and for the first few days, everything was fine. He kept to himself mostly and was polite when we interacted. Then one weekend, my sister and Mark wanted to throw a party at my place. I told them I wasn't comfortable with a party at my condo, but my sister begged me, saying it would just be a few friends and that they would be careful. I said no initially, but she kept pushing and guilt-tripping me about how hard it's been for Mark lately and how important it was for him to feel welcome. I eventually relented and said they could have a small gathering, but under strict rules. No damage, no loud noise after 10 p.m., no guests beyond the ones we agreed on, and that they had to clean up everything afterward. The night of the party, I left for a friend's place for a couple of hours to give them space, but I told them to text me if anything went wrong. Around midnight, I got a call from my neighbor complaining about loud noises and shouting coming from my condo. I immediately texted my sister and Mark to quiet down, and they said they were wrapping up. When I came back the next morning, I found my kitchen completely trashed. There were broken dishes, spilled drinks everywhere, crumbs and food remnants on every surface, and the sink was clogged with garbage. The floor was sticky, and some of my favorite kitchen appliances were missing or broken. My new counter, which I was very proud of, had a big stain that wouldn't come off. I was furious. I confronted my sister and Mark. They apologized but said it was just a party and that I should lighten up. My sister said I was overreacting and that she didn't expect me to be so controlling. Mark even blamed me for making the party boring by setting so many rules. They promised to pay for the damages and clean up, but it felt like empty words. I told them that if Mark wanted to stay at my place, he needed to respect my home, which meant no more parties, no damage, and following my rules. They said it wasn't fair because they felt unwelcome and that I was making things difficult for Mark when he was already going through a rough time. They expected me to be more understanding and accommodating. I eventually asked Mark to move out. My sister was furious and said I was being selfish and that I was ruining her relationship. She said if I couldn't be supportive, she would cut ties. Mark left but texted me afterward, saying I was unreasonable and that I should learn to trust people more. My parents are split on the issue. They think I was right to protect my property, but also think I could have handled it more diplomatically. My friends mostly say I'm justified because it's my home, and no one should disrespect that. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house after he trashed my kitchen during a party, and for asking him to leave when they didn't respect my rules? Or was I too harsh and not supportive enough during a difficult time for Mark? AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's newborn because of how she treated me during my pregnancy? I, 28F, have always been close to my sister, 32F, or at least I thought we were. Growing up, we had a typical sibling relationship with some occasional fights, but nothing serious. Over the past few years, though, things have changed drastically between us, and now I'm questioning if I even want to be involved in her life. The story starts with my own pregnancy about 9 months ago. When I found out I was pregnant, I was over the moon, but also nervous. I had a relatively stable job, my own apartment, and a supportive partner. I shared the news with my sister pretty early on because I wanted her to be part of this huge moment. At first, she was excited, but almost immediately, her excitement turned into something else. She started making comments that I thought were jokes, but turned out to be hurtful. She constantly criticized my lifestyle, the food I was eating, and even questioned if I was ready to be a mother. For example, when I told her I was going to a prenatal yoga class, she said, "Wow, look at you being all fancy." When I was pregnant, I worked double shifts and didn't have time for yoga. She made it sound like I was doing something wrong for taking care of myself. She also bombarded me with unsolicited advice, often contradicting what my doctor told me. "You should eat more meat, you're carrying the baby wrong," or "You're probably going to end up a bad mom like some people I know." I try to brush it off, but it wore me down. I'm usually very calm and diplomatic, But I couldn't tell her how much this was upsetting me because every time I tried, she would turn it into a joke or say I was being overly sensitive. As the pregnancy went on, the tension grew. She showed up uninvited to my doctor's appointments, insisted on tagging along to my prenatal classes, and criticized my partner for not doing enough. She even told me she thought my partner wasn't the right person for me, saying, "He doesn't seem very supportive, just a bit lazy." I tried explaining that my partner and I were handling everything together fine, but she was dismissive. The worst part was at my baby shower. She completely hijacked the event by making it all about her own struggles with motherhood, telling me how much harder it was for her and basically invalidating my experience. When I got a little upset and said something about how this was my special day, she laughed it off and told me I was being dramatic. After that, I told her I needed some space. Fast forward to last month, she gave birth to her first baby. Despite everything, I wanted to be supportive and happy for her. When she asked if I could come help with the newborn for a few days because she was overwhelmed, I said yes. But I made it clear I needed to set boundaries because of how things were between us. When I arrived, things got worse. She was very demanding and criticized how I held the baby, how I cooked, and even how I managed my time. She expected me to be on call 24/7 and guilt-tripped me whenever I needed a break. She also made passive-aggressive comments like, "I guess you're not used to this kind of work since you had it easy with your pregnancy." It felt like she was punishing me for the way she treated me before. On the third day, I reached my limit and told her I couldn't stay any longer. She accused me of abandoning her and said I was selfish and an awful sister. I tried explaining that I was willing to help, but not be disrespected or controlled. She said if that's how I felt, maybe I shouldn't be involved in her life anymore. Since then, I've been getting guilt trips from family members who think I should just put up with her behavior because she's a new mom. My partner supports me and says I shouldn't have to tolerate being treated badly, but I'm struggling with whether I'm overreacting or not. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to keep helping my sister with her newborn because of how she treated me during my pregnancy and when I was trying to help her. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my fiancé and made everything about her. This has been a long time coming, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the asshole or not. I'm 29F, and my fiancé is 31M. We've been together for 5 years, engaged for 1. My sister, 27F, is getting married in about 2 months, and things have been a mess ever since she announced the wedding. To start from the beginning, my sister and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, always perfect in our parents' eyes, and I was the responsible one, which sometimes meant being overshadowed or ignored. I tried to make peace with this over the years, but deep down, I've always felt a little sidelined. When I got engaged last year, my sister barely acknowledged it. She was polite but distant, and it felt like she didn't really care. I brushed it off, figuring maybe she was busy with her own life. Fast forward to her engagement announcement 6 months ago. She got engaged to a guy she met 6 months prior, and they immediately started planning a big, lavish wedding. From the start, she made it clear that she wanted everything perfect and just so. The problem started when she began excluding my fiancé from all wedding-related events. No bachelor or bachelorette parties that included him, no couples get-togethers, and when I asked if we could attend the bridal shower together, she said it was girls only. Fine, I thought, that's her choice. Then things got worse. About 3 months ago, she asked me to be a bridesmaid, which I was happy to accept despite feeling a little hurt that my fiancé wasn't going to be part of anything. However, she insisted that I attend every event on my own and that my fiancé shouldn't be invited because it's about the bride and her friends. I asked if he could at least be invited to the rehearsal dinner or any casual events, but she said no, that he doesn't fit the vibe, and that it was family only, even though our parents invited him to every other family event and have always welcomed him. I tried talking to my sister about this. I said it felt exclusionary and unfair since we're engaged and should be involved together. She brushed me off and said I was overreacting, that this wedding was her special day and she didn't want any drama. The real breaking point happened last month when she posted a video on social media from a girls' night with the bridesmaids, and my fiancé was nowhere to be seen. Instead of acknowledging me as her sister and his fiancé, she captioned it something like, "Girls only. No plus ones allowed. Love my bridesmaids." That stung. I felt humiliated, like she was deliberately trying to make a statement. I decided to confront her privately about it. I told her how hurt I was that she was excluding him and making the wedding about her and her friends instead of including family and loved ones. I also pointed out that this would make me feel isolated and uncomfortable at her wedding, especially since we live together and share our lives. She exploded. She accused me of being selfish, jealous, and trying to ruin her wedding. She said I was overstepping and that she had the right to decide who was invited to her events. She even said I was making this about me and not about her. After that, I realized that my sister was unwilling to budge or see my side. I told her that if she couldn't include my fiancé or treat him as part of the family during the wedding festivities, I wouldn't attend. I explained that I loved her and wanted to support her, but I couldn't be part of an event where my fiancé was deliberately excluded. Our parents got involved when I told them about the situation. They sided mostly with my sister, saying that it's her wedding and her choice and that I was being dramatic. They also said I should just suck it up and be there for my sister because these things matter. My fiancé was supportive and told me he understood if I didn't want to go. He said he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable or disrespected. I haven't told my sister yet that I won't be attending. I'm debating whether to tell her or just skip it quietly. I'm afraid this will cause a huge family rift, but I also don't want to be in a situation where I feel invisible or like I'm betraying my relationship. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my fiancé and made the wedding all about her friends, ignoring our relationship? Or should I just go to keep the peace and support her, even if it hurts me and excludes someone important in my life? AITA for refusing to lend my sister money after she lost her job because I'm worried she'll waste it? So, this all started about 6 months ago, and I'm still struggling with whether I'm the asshole here or if I'm justified in how I handle things. A little background first. I'm 29F, and my sister, Sarah, is 31F. We've always had a bit of a strained relationship, mostly because she's very impulsive, and I'm more cautious and practical. Growing up, she was the adventurous one who often got herself into trouble, while I was the one trying to keep things stable and safe. We love each other, but sometimes I feel like we're from different worlds. Sarah has been working as a freelance graphic designer for about 5 years now. It's a tough field, and she's had some ups and downs financially. I, on the other hand, have a steady 9-to-5 job in finance and have been working toward buying a house. I'm pretty frugal and have a clear budget and savings plan. Sarah often comes to me for financial advice, but I think she struggles to take it. About 6 months ago, Sarah lost her biggest client. It was a blow to her income because that client made up almost 50% of her revenue. She told me she was trying to find new clients, but it was taking longer than expected. A few weeks later, she admitted she was running low on money and asked if I could lend her $2,000 to help cover rent and bills until she got back on her feet. I have to admit, I hesitated. $2,000 is a lot of money for me. I'm saving for a house deposit, and I try to avoid lending money because I know how complicated it can get if things don't get paid back. But Sarah was really upset, and I felt bad, so I agreed. I told her I wanted her to pay me back within 6 months. Over the next few months, I kept asking Sarah for updates on her job hunt and plans to repay the loan. She'd say she was working on new projects but didn't have much to show yet. She asked for some advice on budgeting, and I gave her tips on cutting costs and finding extra gigs. But then, things started to get weird. 1 month in, I noticed that Sarah was posting pictures on social media from expensive dinners, nights out with friends, and shopping trips. She wasn't working much, but she was definitely spending. I confronted her about it gently, asking if she was sure she could afford those outings while owing me money. She got defensive and said she needed to have some fun or she'd go crazy. I felt conflicted, but tried to stay supportive. 2 months later, she asked if she could delay paying back the loan, saying she hadn't landed any steady clients yet. I told her no, I needed the money, but I was willing to accept partial payments if that helped. She promised to send some money, but didn't. Around this time, she also started borrowing small amounts from other family members. I began to feel frustrated and anxious because I'm not a wealthy person, and the loan was starting to impact my own financial plans. I told Sarah that if she wasn't serious about paying me back, I might have to cut off the loan entirely and reconsider our financial relationship. That didn't go well. Sarah accused me of being unsupportive and greedy. She said I was prioritizing my house deposit over her well-being and accused me of treating her like a child. Our conversations became tense, with her blaming me for not understanding her situation and me feeling like she was being irresponsible. Fast forward to now, she still hasn't paid me back anything. I haven't lent her more money, but she keeps asking for advice and emotional support, which I'm happy to give, but I'm also starting to feel like she's taking advantage of me. I'm really torn because I want to help my sister, but I also have to protect my own financial stability and mental health. Recently, I told Sarah I couldn't continue supporting her financially or emotionally in the same way until she showed she was serious about getting back on track. She hasn't spoken to me much since. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to keep lending my sister money and for setting firm boundaries because I'm worried she'll just waste it and never pay me back? Or should I be more understanding and keep helping her despite the risks? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with us after he got kicked out and causing a huge family feud? This all started about 6 months ago, and honestly, it's been a nightmare ever since. I, 32F, live with my husband, 34M, and our 2 kids, 4F and 2M, in a decent-sized house in a quiet neighborhood. We've been happily married for 8 years and generally have a good balance between work, family, and social life. My sister, Lisa, 29F, has always been a little unstable and impulsive, but we're close and I try to support her when I can. So about 6 months ago, Lisa started dating this guy, Mike, 31M. I met Mike once or twice before things got serious, and I wasn't a huge fan, but I wanted to give him a chance. Lisa was really into him and kept saying he was a great guy despite some red flags. He didn't have a stable job, had some sketchy financial issues, and had a bit of temper. Lisa brushed all that off because everyone has flaws. Fast forward 2 months, and Lisa calls me in a panic. Mike got kicked out of his apartment because he hadn't paid rent for months. Lisa was devastated and told me they had nowhere to go. She asked if Mike could stay with us for a bit until he got back on his feet. I immediately told her no. Our house was already full with the kids and all, and honestly, I didn't trust Mike around my family given his history of anger issues and financial irresponsibility. I suggested Lisa try to find a cheap Airbnb or stay with a friend. Lisa didn't take no for an answer. She started coming over nearly every day, begging me to let Mike move in just for a week or 2. She kept saying how he was trying to find a job and get his life together, but I wasn't convinced. My husband supported my decision because he saw how stressed I was getting just from the constant visits. One night, Lisa showed up at our door crying, saying Mike had nowhere else, and she was scared he'd end up homeless. She told me she was desperate, and I was being cruel. I felt terrible, but I still said no. That night, she left in tears, and I heard Mike shouting outside our house. I was furious, but didn't open the door. Lisa stopped coming for a while, but then called me again with an ultimatum. If Mike couldn't stay with us, she was going to move out of state to live with some distant relatives and cut contact with me and the family. She was threatening to disappear if I didn't help her. I felt stuck. I offered to help her find a roommate situation or help with a deposit for a new place, but she said no one wanted to rent to Mike because of his history. Then things got worse. Lisa started sending me angry texts accusing me of being selfish and unsupportive. She posted on social media about how her family abandoned her in her darkest hour, tagging me and my husband. Some of her mutual friends reached out to ask if everything was okay, and I had to explain the situation while trying to keep it private. One weekend, Lisa showed up unannounced with Mike, demanding to speak to me. I told her firmly that he could not stay in our home, but she tried to argue, saying Mike was sick and had nowhere else. Mike got aggressive and tried to push past me to come inside. My husband stepped in and told him to leave. It turned into a shouting match, and Lisa stormed off, crying again. Since then, Lisa has barely talked to me, and our parents have gotten involved. They think I'm being too harsh, and say family is supposed to help each other no matter what. My parents called me selfish and said I was turning my back on my own sister. My husband and I have been trying to stay out of the drama, but it's been hard. The tension at family gatherings is unbearable. I still don't want Mike in my house because I'm worried about the safety of my kids and the stability of our home. Lisa says I'm cruel and that family means nothing to me, but I feel like I'm doing what I need to do to protect my own family. My parents think I'm the villain. Lisa won't talk to me, and I feel stuck in the middle of a feud that's tearing us apart. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with us after he got kicked out and for standing my ground despite the family backlash. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to give my sister's wedding gift back after she asked for it months later. So this is a long one, but I really need an outside opinion because my family is absolutely divided and I'm stuck in the middle of this mess. I, 30F, have a younger sister, 27F, named Emily. Emily and I have always been close, but like most siblings, we've had our ups and downs. She got engaged last year and asked me to be one of her bridesmaids, which I was happy to do. The wedding was scheduled for this past summer, and I was genuinely excited for her. Now, Emily is very into all things fancy and expensive, so I wanted to give her something meaningful and special for her wedding gift. I knew she wanted a really nice kitchen setup for their new home. She's married her longtime boyfriend, Mark, who's a great guy. So, I saved up for a few months and bought a high-end espresso machine from a well-known brand she had been eyeing for months. It was almost $1,200, which was a significant chunk of my savings, but I thought it was worth it for something she'd use every day and appreciate. At the wedding, I gave her the espresso machine, wrapped beautifully, with a card telling her how much I loved her and wished her the best. She seemed genuinely happy and gave me a big hug. I thought that was the end of it. Fast forward to about 3 months after the wedding. Out of the blue, I get a text from Emily. She tells me that she and Mark have had some unexpected expenses with the house, renovations, bills, etc., and asked if I could return the espresso machine because they needed the money badly. She said she was sorry to ask, but it would really help them right now. I was taken aback. I asked her if she wanted me to physically take the machine back or if she wanted me to return it to the store. It was past the return window, so no luck there. She said she just wanted the machine back so they could sell it. I told her I didn't feel comfortable taking back a gift I had given her. A gift, by definition, is something given freely, not something you take back when you're in a bind. She got upset and accused me of being selfish and not caring about her or Mark. She said I was being petty and that family is supposed to help each other. I told her that I did care about them, but I gave the gift out of love, not as a loan or something I expected to be returned. She then started bringing up all kinds of old grievances, how I never helped her when she was in tough spots before, and how I was always the rich sister who refused to share. At this point, I was frustrated because I did help her in other ways, like helping her move, babysitting her dog, etc., but none of those were monetary. I also reminded her that Mark has a job and that they probably should have saved or budgeted better, but she said that was irrelevant. Our parents got involved and tried to mediate. They said that while Emily's request was awkward, maybe I could at least loan her the money or sell the machine to her, so she didn't have to buy a new one. I told them I wasn't comfortable with that either because I felt pressured into something I didn't want. Emily hasn't spoken to me since the argument, and my relationship with the rest of the family has become strained. Some say I'm being unreasonable and not a supportive sister, while others say Emily crossed a boundary and I'm justified. Honestly, I just feel hurt that my gift wasn't appreciated for what it was and that my sister would ask for it back like that. I wanted to celebrate her marriage, not get involved in financial drama months later. So, AITA for refusing to give back or sell my sister the wedding gift I gave her. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she demanded I pay for half the cost despite not inviting me to the planning or helping with anything. So this is a long one, and honestly, it's been eating me up. I, 32F, come from a pretty close-knit family, or at least I thought so until recently. My sister, Rachel, 28F, has always been the golden child, academically brilliant, outgoing, and the one everyone in our family revolves around. I've never been jealous, but I've always felt a bit like the forgotten sibling. I'm more introverted, work a demanding job, and tend to keep to myself. Rachel got engaged about 8 months ago, and from the start, I was excited for her. She's been dating her fiancé, Mark, 30M, for around 3 years, and I've met him a handful of times at family gatherings. They seemed happy, and I thought this would be a fun, collaborative time for all of us. However, things went sideways quickly. Rachel announced she wanted a small and intimate wedding with only close family and friends. She said she wanted it to be in her hometown, and she insisted it would be a DIY wedding to save costs, meaning she and Mark would do all the planning themselves, with a little help from my parents. Great, I thought. A simple wedding where we could all just enjoy the day. Except the planning started, and I realized I wasn't invited to any of it. I'm talking 0 invitations to dress fittings, venue scouting, food tasting, or even casual brainstorming sessions. My parents, who were apparently invited, told me Rachel made it clear she didn't want me involved because I never offered to help and always made excuses. That stung because I never even got the chance to offer help. I tried to reach out several times, but Rachel would either not respond or give vague answers about how things were already handled. When I asked my parents if I could chip in, they said Rachel wanted to keep it small and simple and didn't want to add more people. Fast forward 4 months, and Rachel comes to me with an unexpected and frankly shocking request. She and Mark want me to pay for half the wedding. Half. They say it's because the entire event, including the venue rental, catering, decorations, and even the photography, is coming out of their pocket and my parents. But my parents supposedly have a fixed contribution. That isn't enough. So they want me to cover 50% of the costs, which are estimated to be around $20,000. I was stunned. I asked why they hadn't told me earlier and why I wasn't included in the planning if I was going to be on the hook for such a huge amount. Rachel replied that since I wasn't involved in any planning, it was fair for her and Mark to ask for financial help now, as the costs were getting high and my parents alone couldn't cover it. I said I was willing to contribute something, but $10,000 was not something I could just drop on a moment's notice, especially with no say in what was happening. Plus, I was hurt that I wasn't even asked or involved before. Rachel then accused me of being selfish, not caring about family, and not supporting her big day. She said I was acting like the forgotten sibling on purpose. My parents are caught in the middle. They think I should help because it's a family event, but they also agree that Rachel's approach has been cold. They want me to compromise for the sake of peace. I told Rachel I wasn't comfortable paying for half a wedding I didn't help plan, wasn't invited to, and wasn't even given the opportunity to be involved in. I also said I would like to discuss this with the whole family because the way this has been handled isn't fair to anyone. Rachel then told me that if I didn't pay, I wouldn't be invited to the wedding at all. That hurt me deeply. I told her that felt like blackmail and that I didn't want to be part of a wedding that made me feel so unwelcome. Our relationship has been strained ever since. My parents have urged me to reconsider, but I'm still unsure. I want to support my sister, but I don't think I should be financially responsible for a wedding I had no involvement with, nor do I want to be guilted into paying under threat of exclusion. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay half of my sister's wedding when I was deliberately left out of the planning and told to pay up last minute. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she demanded I pay for half the cost. I, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling. I work a stable job in marketing, have been financially independent since college, and generally try to keep a level head in family situations. My younger sister, 28F, on the other hand, has always been more free-spirited but also more impulsive and financially reckless. Over the years, this has caused tension between us, but we've mostly managed to stay civil. Last year, she got engaged to her boyfriend, and initially, I was happy for her. She started talking about wedding plans, and I offered to help in any way I could since she's always been a bit disorganized. However, the conversations quickly turned sour when she made it clear she wanted me to host the wedding at my house. My house isn't a mansion or anything extravagant. It's a modest 2-story suburban home with a decent-sized backyard, but it's not designed for big events. I live in a neighborhood where noise restrictions and space limitations are strict. I told her it would be difficult to have a wedding there, but offered to help her find a venue instead. She was insistent that the wedding should be at my place because it's more personal and intimate. When I expressed concerns about the logistics and costs of hosting an event of that size at my home, she said, "It's your house, so you should cover the expenses." I was taken aback. I asked her to clarify, and she said she expected me to pay for at least half of the wedding costs, including catering, rentals, and decorations, since it would be on my property. I explained that I wasn't prepared for such a financial burden, especially since I wasn't even the one getting married. I also mentioned that I was already saving for a down payment on a house and had other financial obligations. She responded that if I didn't want to help her, she would find another venue and would expect me to pay for half of the new venue's cost instead. At this point, I felt like I was being cornered. I told her that I was happy to contribute something reasonable, like helping with decorations or chipping in for a small part of the catering, but that I couldn't afford to pay thousands of dollars for a wedding I wasn't even part of. She accused me of being selfish and unsupportive, saying families should stick together and help each other out. My parents got involved after hearing about the dispute and pressured me to just agree to her demands to keep the peace. They reminded me of how much my sister had always looked up to me and that this was a once-in-a-lifetime event. I tried explaining my financial situation to them, but they said I was overthinking it and that family comes first. I ended up refusing to pay for the wedding or host it at my home. My sister cut off communication with me for several weeks, saying I was ruining her special day. Eventually, she booked a venue on her own and paid for it through her savings and some help from her fiancé's family. The wedding happened last month, and I wasn't invited. I was hurt, but I also felt like I needed to set boundaries. Since then, our relationship has been strained. My parents keep reminding me I should have just helped out and that I'm being unreasonable. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to host my sister's wedding and refusing to pay half of the expenses, especially since I wasn't even part of the wedding? Or was I justified in setting financial boundaries and protecting myself? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly disowned me over a family dispute? This is going to be a long one, so bear with me. I, 29F, have always been pretty close with my older sister, Laura, 33F. We grew up in a somewhat complicated family, but for the most part, we've had each other's backs through thick and thin. Our parents divorced when I was 12, and Laura took on a lot of responsibility for me as the big sister. We moved between my mom's and dad's houses a lot, but Laura always made sure I felt supported. The trouble started around 2 years ago. Laura got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Mark, and I was genuinely happy for her. We planned to be a big part of the wedding, and I was even in charge of some of the decorations and coordinating with the vendors. I had never been more excited to be involved in something that was such a big deal for her. However, about a year before the wedding, things began to shift. Our family situation is a bit unusual. Our dad has been estranged from us since before Laura was even born. He was abusive toward our mom and emotionally absent for us growing up. Laura always had a very hard time dealing with him, understandably. I, on the other hand, have been trying to maintain a civil relationship with him, mostly for my own peace of mind and because I wanted to understand our family better. I had very limited contact with him, but I talked to him on holidays and checked in occasionally. Laura found out about this and was furious. She said that I was betraying the family by even speaking to him and that I was choosing him over us. She demanded that I cut all ties immediately, and when I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, just that I needed to make peace in my own way, she didn't want to hear it. At first, I thought it was a phase or some kind of temporary anger, but it turned out she was dead serious. We had a huge argument, and in the heat of it, she told me that if I didn't cut off contact with Dad, I was no longer welcome in the family. She said that I was disowning them by continuing to talk to him and that I had to pick a side. I was devastated. I tried to talk to her and our mom multiple times, but Laura was relentless. She even made a big scene at a family gathering where she loudly announced that I was not part of the family anymore and that she would no longer be speaking to me or including me in anything. I was heartbroken, but still held out hope that things might get better. I stopped talking to Dad entirely because I wanted to salvage the relationship with Laura and the rest of the family. I sent her a message saying I was willing to make peace and that I didn't want to lose her, but she ignored me. Fast forward to the wedding planning. Laura was getting increasingly controlling and demanding. She sent out invitations, and my name was nowhere to be found. I was devastated, but decided not to attend the wedding in protest because of how she treated me. I reached out one last time to express my feelings and ask if there was any way to fix things, but she replied publicly on social media, basically disowning me again and saying I was a toxic presence who didn't deserve to be part of the celebration. Now, the rest of the family has mostly sided with Laura. Our mom says she understands why Laura feels this way, but is also sad about the whole situation. My dad has been supportive, but I've mostly been isolated from everyone else. Since then, I've been living on my own, focusing on my career, and trying to stay out of family drama. However, I keep getting messages from mutual friends and distant relatives asking if I'm going to show up at the wedding or trying to mediate. I told them flat out that I'm not attending because I refuse to be publicly shamed and excluded like that. Some say I'm being petty and that I should just swallow my pride to support my sister on her big day. Others say Laura is being unreasonable. I want to make clear that I never did anything to hurt Laura intentionally. I only wanted to understand my family and myself better by keeping some kind of contact with Dad. I didn't think that would be such a deal breaker. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she disowned me over a family dispute about contact with our estranged dad. AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's kids after she decided to move abroad without any solid plans for them. I, 34M, have always been the dependable older brother in my family. I have a steady job, own a house, and have a fairly predictable life. My younger sister, Emma, 28F, has been a bit more free-spirited and somewhat unreliable throughout her life. She's never had a steady job for long and has bounced between different cities and countries for years now. Recently, Emma dropped a bombshell on me and my parents. She told us that she plans to move abroad, specifically to Southeast Asia, to find herself and live a simpler life. That in itself isn't unusual for Emma. What made it complicated is that she has 2 kids, ages 5 and 7, and she wants to leave them behind. She expects me to take care of them. Here's some background. Emma's kids are wonderful, but raising children is not something I ever planned for or wanted in my life. I have no children of my own and don't particularly want any, at least not now or in the near future. My life is set up around a quiet routine, my job, hobbies, and a small circle of friends. I live alone in a 3-bedroom house, so I technically have a space. However, my home and lifestyle aren't designed for kids, and I work long hours. When Emma told me she's moving, she said she'd be gone for at least a year, but possibly longer. She wants me to look after the kids during that time, saying she can't take them with her because the schools are too expensive and the environment isn't safe. She insisted that it's temporary and that she'd visit the kids as often as she can, but that she needs me to be the primary caregiver while she's away. I was honestly taken aback. I'm not a kid person by nature, and I wasn't prepared to take on parental responsibilities. I told her straight up that I'm not the right person to do this, that I have no experience raising children, and that I'm worried about how this would affect my life and mental health. Emma got upset and accused me of being selfish and irresponsible. She said I was abandoning my family and the kids who need me. My parents are caught in the middle. They're older and not in good health, so they can't help much. They want to support Emma, but also understand my concerns. They urged me to at least try helping out, saying it would only be temporary. I considered the situation and even thought about hiring a nanny or looking for daycare options. But Emma expects me to be the guardian. She doesn't want to spend money on childcare because she's already struggling financially and hopes I'll take care of everything for free. Over the past few weeks, I've tried talking to Emma about alternative solutions, like involving social services, looking into legal guardianship options with other family members, or even Emma postponing her plans until the kids are older. But she's firm in her decision. She believes that leaving the kids with me is the best option, given our family dynamics. I finally told her I'm not going to take care of her kids. I said that if she leaves, she needs to make proper arrangements or take responsibility herself. Emma's been cold since then, and our relationship has become tense. She's called me every name in the book and told me I'm a terrible brother. Some mutual friends have expressed disappointment at me for not stepping up. I'm torn because I want to support my family, but I also feel like I'm being asked to sacrifice my entire life and well-being for something I never agreed to. I didn't sign up to be a parent, and it feels unfair that Emma would just expect me to take over because she wants to run off somewhere without a plan for her children. So, AITA for refusing to care for my sister's kids after she decides to leave them behind to move abroad. AITA for refusing to give my sister-in-law a huge chunk of my inheritance because she deserves it more, even though she has a large trust fund and lives a lavish lifestyle. So, here's the situation. I, 34F, recently inherited a significant sum of money from my late grandfather. This was completely unexpected because he hadn't mentioned any will to anyone for years, but after his passing, the lawyer revealed a will from 2019 that left most of his estate to me. The amount is enough to completely change my life. I'm talking multiple millions. My brother, 38M, and his wife, my sister-in-law, 33F, were understandably shocked. My grandfather was always close to my brother, and they used to joke about splitting everything evenly, but apparently my grandfather had his reasons for leaving it all to me. Here's some background on my sister-in-law, which is important for context. She comes from a wealthy family herself, with a large trust fund established by her parents that covers all her expenses and then some. She doesn't work, and she travels constantly, posting lavish vacations and luxury shopping hauls on social media. She has a big house and fancy cars, and she's pretty well off by any standard. Now, when the inheritance news got out, my sister-in-law immediately started telling my brother that I should share the money with her because family should help family, and that she'd deserve a portion of it more than I did. She said this repeatedly in front of my brother, and at first, I tried to ignore it, thinking she was just being dramatic. But it escalated quickly. She told my brother that she had helped take care of our grandfather during his final years, which I know isn't true. I was the one who visited him weekly, helped with his bills, drove him to appointments, and even spent nights at his house when he was sick. She saw him maybe twice in the last 2 years. She also said that because her family's trust fund was just for her luxury lifestyle and not an inheritance, this money would mean more to her. My brother then called me, asking if I would consider giving her a large sum from the inheritance, basically trying to mediate the situation. I told him I was uncomfortable with the idea because I didn't feel she needed it and because my grandfather's wishes were clear. I also explained my involvement and relationship with my grandfather in his last years. My brother was upset, but said he would talk to her. The problem is, this didn't stop my sister-in-law. She began to openly badmouth me to other family members, saying I was greedy and selfish and that I was stealing from the family. This caused a rift, with some relatives taking her side because she's been more social and involved with them in recent years, while others backed me because they knew the truth of my relationship with my grandfather. My parents told me I should be more generous for the sake of family harmony, and some friends suggested that sharing even a portion could prevent long-term family drama. I get that, but it doesn't feel right to me to give away what was explicitly left to me, especially to someone who doesn't actually need it and has been dishonest about her contributions to our grandfather's care. The tension has been escalating for months now. My sister-in-law has started excluding me from family events, and my brother is stuck in the middle, constantly trying to keep peace. I feel like I'm being punished for honoring my grandfather's wishes and the effort I put in. At the same time, I don't want to completely burn bridges with my family, but I also won't give in to what I see as entitlement. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister-in-law a large share of my inheritance, even though she claims she deserves it more, despite her financial independence and my grandfather's clear intentions. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the dress code and ending up completely cut off from my family. I, 32F, have always been the black sheep of my family when it comes to how I live my life. I'm more laid back and casual, while my family tends to be quite traditional and formal. It's not that I don't love them, I do, but I just don't fit the mold they expect. My sister, 28F, let's call her Emily, has always been the golden child. She's super organized, career-driven, and married into a very affluent family. Her fiancé, now husband, comes from old money and expects things to be done a certain way, very traditionally. I'm not close to him, and to be honest, I never really liked how they pressure my sister to conform to their lifestyle. When Emily got engaged last year, I was genuinely happy for her, but right from the beginning, the wedding planning caused friction. The biggest sticking point was the dress code. They announced it would be black tie for everyone, including guests. I'm not against dressing up, but the expectation was extreme: women in full-length gowns, men in tuxedos. On top of that, the venue was an ultra-expensive country club with a very formal atmosphere. I told Emily I felt uncomfortable with the black tie dress code because I don't own any gowns or tuxedos and didn't want to spend thousands renting or buying something I would never wear again. I've always been more practical with my money, and frankly, a dress that expensive doesn't make sense for me. Emily brushed off my concerns and said, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. You should just make it work." I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money as much as the whole vibe made me feel out of place, but she didn't seem to get it. About 2 months before the wedding, Emily sent out very strict invitations. Each invitation included a detailed dress code sheet with examples, emphasizing no exceptions. I reached out again to ask if there was any wiggle room. I even offered to help pick out something appropriate on a budget or rent a dress, but Emily was firm: black tie, no exceptions. Around this time, my anxiety about the whole thing started to grow. I have some social anxiety, and dressing up informal, where around people who look like they're from a magazine, just felt overwhelming. I was worried about feeling out of place or like a spectacle. I also have a few insecurities about my appearance, which don't help in situations like this. My sister's words felt dismissive and made me feel like she didn't want me there if I couldn't meet their expectations perfectly. I spoke to a close friend about it, and she suggested I try to talk to Emily one last time about how the whole thing was making me feel beyond just the dress code. I sent Emily a heartfelt message explaining that it wasn't about the clothes or the money, but about feeling like I'd be an outsider at an event that was already very formal and perfect. I told her I didn't want to ruin her day or make her feel like I wasn't supportive, but I needed her to understand my perspective. Emily responded coldly, saying, "This is our day, and we're sticking to the plans. If you don't want to be there, that's your choice." She didn't acknowledge my feelings at all, and I felt really hurt. The last week before the wedding, I agonized over what to do. I tried finding a black tie outfit within a reasonable budget, but couldn't find anything that fit me well or felt right. On the night of the rehearsal dinner, I made the difficult decision not to go to any of the events, including the wedding itself. I sent a message to Emily explaining that I wasn't coming because I didn't feel comfortable with the dress code and the atmosphere, and I needed to take care of my mental health. I apologized for any hurt this caused, but said I hoped she understood. Her response was terse and disappointing. She said I was being selfish and immature, and that I was prioritizing my petty issues over family. The message ended with, "Don't bother showing up if you change your mind." After the wedding, my parents called me, upset and confused about why I didn't attend. I explained my reasons as honestly as I could, but they accused me of embarrassing the family and said I had no respect for Emily's big day. My sister has since blocked me on all social media and hasn't spoken to me. I'm devastated because I never imagined a disagreement over a dress code would lead to me being completely cut off from my family. I feel like I was trying to be honest and true to myself, but they see it as disrespect. I'm starting to question if I'm wrong for refusing to participate in something that made me so uncomfortable, especially given the personal cost. So, AITA for not going to my sister's wedding because of the dress code and feeling alienated from my family? Or were they too harsh and inflexible given the circumstances? AITA for refusing to help my brother pay for his wedding after he humiliated my wife during our own wedding? So for some context, I, 32M, got married to my wife, Jenna, 30F, about 3 years ago. My younger brother, Kyle, 28M, was my best man. We've always had a bit of a competitive relationship, but we were close enough that I wanted him by my side. He's the kind of guy everyone describes as the life of the party. Loud, funny, always cracking jokes, but he's also the kind of person who doesn't really know when to stop. When Jenna and I got engaged, We had a small engagement dinner with close family and friends. Everything went well until Kyle decided to make a toast. He told a bunch of embarrassing stories about me, which was fine, but then he said something like, "Let's hope Jenna doesn't run for the hills once she realizes how bad my brother is in bed." Everyone laughed awkwardly. Jenna looked mortified, and I pulled him aside later to tell him he'd crossed the line. He brushed it off and said I was too sensitive. Fast forward to the wedding. Everything was going smoothly until the reception. During his best man speech, Kyle decided to go for comedy gold. He joked about how surprised he was that I'd found someone willing to put up with my mood swings, made fun of Jenna's Pinterest addiction, and then said, into the microphone, in front of everyone, "I give it 2 years before she realizes she can do better." The entire room went silent. My mom actually yelled his name from her seat. I took the mic away and told everyone to ignore the failed comedy routine. Jenna was fighting back tears. I ended up pulling him aside and telling him to leave. He refused at first, but my dad backed me up, and he eventually stormed out. For a long time after that, I didn't talk to him. He sent a half-hearted apology text about a month later, saying he didn't mean it that way, and that he was just trying to lighten the mood. Jenna didn't want to make me choose sides, but she said she didn't want to see him again anytime soon. Over the next couple of years, our relationship stayed distant. I'd see him at family gatherings occasionally, and things were polite but surface level. He started dating this woman named Erica, and honestly, she seemed great. She's friendly, organized, and from what I've seen, very different from him. A few months ago, they got engaged, and I actually thought maybe this would be a chance to rebuild things. About a month ago, Kyle called me and said he wanted to talk bro to bro. He said he and Erica were struggling to afford the kind of wedding she wanted and asked if I could help him out since I make more money. I'm in IT and make a decent living, but I'm not rolling in cash. I asked him what help meant, and he said he needed around $10,000 to cover the venue deposit and catering. I was honestly stunned. I asked why he thought I'd be willing to do that, and he said, "Because you're my brother, and you know how expensive weddings are. You've been through it." He also said it would help us move past all the old drama. I told him flat out that I wasn't comfortable giving him that kind of money, especially considering how things went down between us. He immediately got defensive and said, "You're still holding a grudge over a few jokes?" I reminded him that those jokes had humiliated my wife on what was supposed to be one of the best days of her life. He scoffed and said, "Man, you're seriously whipped. It's been years. Get over it." That was the point where I lost my temper. I told him I wasn't giving him a cent, that I didn't owe him anything, and that if he couldn't afford the wedding he wanted, maybe he should scale it down instead of expecting handouts. He called me a selfish asshole and hung up. 2 days later, I got a call from my mom. She said Kyle had told her I refused to help family in need. I explained what he'd asked for and why I said no. She sighed and said she understood my point, but wished I could be the bigger person to finally mend the relationship. My dad, on the other hand, said I was right to draw a line. Then Erica texted me. She apologized for Kyle's behavior and said she didn't know he'd said those things at our wedding. She said she respected our decision not to help, but now my brother is furious with her for taking my side. Apparently, he's been telling other relatives that I'm trying to punish him for being funny and that Jenna turned me against him. A few cousins have reached out saying I should just let it go because family is family, but a few others said they would have done the exact same thing. Here's the part that makes me question myself. I could technically afford to help. It wouldn't destroy me financially. And if I did, maybe it would make peace with my family easier. But every time I imagine handing over that money, I remember my wife's face during our wedding speech. How embarrassed she looked, how small she felt in front of everyone we knew. Jenna told me she supports whatever decision I make, but admitted she'd feel hurt and confused if I helped him after everything. She said it would feel like his behavior had no consequences. I told my mom that I wasn't going to change my mind. She said she respected that, but hinted that Kyle was devastated and felt like he'd lost his brother for good. I said, "He lost me when he humiliated my wife and never truly apologized. Now the whole family is divided. My mom keeps saying I should be the one to heal things since I'm the more mature one, but I'm exhausted. I feel like I've spent years trying to keep peace while he just keeps taking shots, and expecting forgiveness when it's convenient for him. Part of me wonders if I should have just given him a smaller amount, something symbolic to show goodwill. But another part of me feels like I've finally drawn a boundary that needed to be drawn years ago. So now, my brother's not speaking to me. Half the family thinks I'm heartless, and my mom's stressing over having her sons at odds during the holidays. But I can't shake the feeling that if I cave now, it'll just teach him that I'll always bend if he guilt trips me enough. And honestly, I don't want to set that precedent again. AITA for refusing to help him pay for his wedding even though I can afford it, because of how he treated my wife at ours. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.